Hello and welcome to episode 132 of My Circus, My Monkeys. When I ask folks what their biggest challenge is as a supervisor, the number one answer is almost always time, or rather, not enough time. This issue comes up repeatedly in surveys, coaching, and recently talking to the folks at ACPA 24. So today, I'm going to answer the question, how do I get all the things I need to get done when I don't have enough time? So if you've been wrestling with this issue, you're going to want to keep listening. In a recent survey, I asked folks what their biggest challenge is. And as I mentioned earlier, most people mention time. But I want to break that down a little bit by mentioning some of the specific things people wrote. Time. I'm currently enrolled in a doctoral program while working full time. Too many things I want and need to do in a given month, week, day, etc. Not enough time to do all the things. I have ideas to make experience better as a supervisor, but due to other issues that take time, I can't execute those. Time with those I supervise competing against higher level projects, and workplace reductions, which result in my plate being even more full. Those are just a few of the things that I hear from supervisors regarding too much to do and not enough time. And you can see by those examples, some of it's related to staffing issues, some to unrealistic workloads, supervising issues, and balancing big picture things with daily activities. But in a nutshell, people are running themselves ragged without ever reaching the finish line. There's always this looming pile of work to do, no matter how much you accomplish in a day. Now, this is a complicated issue, and I don't want to oversimplify it, but I'm going to give you an important key to managing this right now. So get out a piece of paper and a pen so you can write down what I'm going to say. Just one sentence. And if you're driving or doing something else, just repeat this out loud after me. Write it nice and big, say it nice and loud. Ready? It is simply not possible for me to get all of this done. Okay, did you get that? I'll repeat it. It is simply not possible for me to get all of this done. How did it feel to write or to say that? And how does it feel to just be honest about the situation? Is it a relief? Does it make you feel even more stressed? Does it make you feel empowered? Now, my guess is that you didn't think that's what I was going to say. I mean, the title of this episode is How to Find Time to Get Everything Done. But here's the thing, thinking that way makes you feel like there's something wrong with you, that you are the problem. But you are not the problem. If you are listening to this, you are not a slacker or someone who doesn't care about their work. You want to do a good job. You want to serve your team and your students. The problem is you're being asked to do too much with too few resources, period. Now, I don't want to go on a tangent about the state of higher ed today, but we have lots of terrible systems that are driven by folks who make poor decisions, often because of stress. And if you've listened to past episodes about the impact of stress, you know that means the folks who make or are making decisions are not doing their best work. There are lots of reasons for the stress: money, politics, ego, and even ignorance. But in the end, we have a system that's so desperate to increase numbers for enrollment, retention, endowments, all while slashing budgets. It's become a quagmire of doing without consideration for actual outcomes or the impact it's having on you or your team. All that being said, you are still left with a problem, right? I mean, what are you supposed to do when you have too many things on your plate and no realistic way to get them all done. Well, I can't help with that, but I have to warn you, it's not going to be about clever time hacks or doing more with less. The answer involves changing your mindset and developing the right skills and habits that will allow you to upgrade the way you think and act. And if you're thinking, um, I just said I don't have any time, Anne, so I guess I'll just have to work harder to try and get it all done. Let me give you a physical example to illustrate why that's not going to work. I mean, plus it hasn't worked, right? But bear with me. So Alicia and I just got back from Chicago for ACPA 24. We were there for 2 days, so obviously we needed to pack. And how does one pack? You need to know what you need based on what your goals are and factoring things that might limit how much baggage or stuff you could bring with you, right? We were in the marketplace for 2 days, so I needed two professional outfits. Plus, I wanted to be comfortable while traveling and when we weren't working, so some comfier clothes. I needed toiletries, so I had the products that I prefer. I'm a light sleeper, so I always bring a sound machine to maximize the chance of getting a good night's sleep. And finally, I've been having some hip and back issues, so I wanted to bring a heating pad and massage gun to keep myself feeling as good as possible during the trip. Luggage wise, got a variety of things, a duffel bag, two different size suitcases. So I simply looked at how much stuff I needed to bring and picked the smaller suitcase. Easy peasy. But what if I had a bunch of other stuff that I was told I needed to bring or I thought I needed to bring with me? I'd need a bigger bag, right? I mean, I can't make stuff more. I mean, I can't make stuff smaller than it is. Yes, there are plenty of YouTube videos and blogs about packing hacks that could allow me to put a few more things in tightly. But at a certain point, there's just too much stuff to fit in, even the largest size bag. So now what? Well, I'd either need more or bigger bags, or I'd have to take less stuff. And that decision is going to be informed by where I was staying, how much luggage I could bring, etc. Now, in this example, you and your energy are the bag. All the things you need to do is your stuff. You only have so much work you can pack in there at one time. And some days you might have the capacity to do large luggage sized work. But other days, you're only going to have the capacity to do duffel bag size work. And that's called being human. Yeah, you can do things to increase your productivity, but those things are not just doing more. Doing more is not the solution, and certainly not doing more with less. When your bag is full, it is full. Overfilling it is either going to break the bag and or ruin the stuff that was in it. So break you, or you're going to have a bunch of stuff that you've done that's not of high quality. And I like to make things physical because we tend not to think about ourselves as having limits, like physical things to do. I mean, you can get less sleep, come in early, stay late, work faster, etc., right? And theoretically, yes, that's true. But just like an overstuffed bag, eventually you're going to be stressed beyond your limits and things are going to fall apart. You have to pack based on the resources you have and what best aligns with your goals and values. Let's talk about what you can do to better align your work with your resources. And I'm going to run through these rather quickly for the sake of time, but I have done previous episodes on what I'm going to talk about here. So if any of these resonate with you, please go back and dig a little bit deeper with some of the other episodes or reach out to me and we can talk about what you need to do to feel more empowered in your role. So number one, prioritize. Remember, there is literally no way for you to get all of this done. So if you can't get everything done, you need to focus on what's the most important. And that involves prioritizing. And that can be hard because when we're stressed and caught in fight or flight, everything can seem urgent and a priority. But that is not true. It just feels true. So, why isn't everything urgent? Well, let's look at the 80-20 rule or the Pareto principle. I think that's how you pronounce it. This started as an economic principle, but research has shown it applies to almost every field. And basically, in a nutshell, 20% of what you do accounts for 80% of the results. So that means a small percentage of what you and your team spend your time on is giving you the greatest outcomes. That also means that 80% of what you and your team spend your time on are only giving you marginal gains. And when you think about everything on your plate, think about what are the things that are getting you closest to your goal? Again, the most bang for your buck. Where are your time and energy? Where should they be spent first? It's on that 20%. And it's not that you can't do the other things, but if you're valuing all your tasks equally and you already know you can't do everything, trying to do everything means you're going to run out of time and energy to do the things that might be making the biggest impact for your student, your team, and yourself. If you are a Franklin Covey fan, this is the whole philosophy behind putting in your big rocks first. Those are the things that must be done to move you and your team closer to your goals. So number one, prioritize. Number two, create effective systems. Higher ed is not known for having great systems. And sometimes we realize this when students are being inconvenienced or harmed. Hey, students have to run around to 3 different offices to get blank done. Let's create a one-stop shop. Yes, let's. But we seldom think about improving systems to make them more effective for us. Sure, there are policies and procedures from on high that we may not be able to easily influence. But what can you do within your office, within your department? One of the comments earlier was time with those I supervise competing against higher level projects. And since this was a survey, I don't have all the background on that particular situation, but I want to say, A, yes, you do need to spend time actively supervising your team, but my guess is this person is talking about team members who are constantly interrupting them to ask questions or look for guidance or vent. And that's my guess, simply because I've talked with lots of people about how frustrating this is. And the key to stopping this dynamic is to set up better systems. What might this look like? Well, do you have an open door policy? If so, they are just using the system that you set up. Do you have regular one-on-one meetings so they know that they have time set aside where they can talk to you and get their questions answered? If not, then they are just trying to find any opportunity to connect and get the information that they need. Do you stop what you're doing, answer their questions when they interrupt you? Then they're getting everything they need from you. They're doing what they need to do or what they think they need to do to be effective. And so you need to create a system that works for you and them, not against you. Your team is operating within a flawed system. Oops. So find something that meets everyone's needs. Set healthy boundaries. That's number 3. Everything on campus feels so urgent that we feel like we have no choice but to do everything. In fact, in higher ed, we use phrases like be a team player or go above and beyond. And those are high praise, right? That has created a culture where good employees have no boundaries or limits. You'll do whatever's asked, and even things that weren't asked, just to show how much you care and how great a professional you are. Conversely, this means that folks that do have healthy boundaries often get labeled as not being team players or not caring. And if you want to dig a bit deeper into this kind of thought, listen to my last episode called Creating a Trauma-Informed Workplace, because I kind of dig into this idea that some of the things that we really value in higher ed are often driven from trauma. So just something to think about. People above you benefit from you and your team doing more and more for less and less. You don't benefit, your team doesn't benefit. I'll even go as far to say that your students don't benefit. Why? Because what happens? Employees burn out and turnover. They leave. And in the end, students lose those important connections and have terrible role models. They see passionate people who work themselves to exhaustion. So that's what they think they need to do to be successful and to serve others. And I'm going to ask you, is that really what you want for your students? How you feel being run around ragged? Is that what you want them to do when they graduate and get their jobs? But if instead you prioritize and set healthy boundaries, you can communicate to your supervisor what is and is not feasible for your team now. And this isn't to say you should be inflexible. If your supervisor says the president needs the team to prioritize X, you may not be able to say no. But what you can do is let folks know that prioritizing X means you're not going to get Y done on the aforementioned deadline or by that deadline. You're going to have to wait until X is done before you can continue to work on Y. And you can also advocate for additional resources like more staff or outsourcing tasks to create more space for you and your team to get things done. But again, the size of the suitcase is the size of the suitcase. Is this easy? No. Will it be comfortable? Probably not. But again, these are not tricks or hacks to magically make you get everything done. This is about challenging the systems that are causing the problems. And that is absolutely going to require you to change how you think about and do things. And you can decide it's not worth it and keep doing what you're doing. But eventually you or folks on your team are going to burn out and leave. The real question is, how much damage is it going to inflict before that happens? And I've heard from plenty of folks who have chronic health issues, both physically and mentally, because of all this stress. The next thing you can do to help with this time issue is focus on stress management and self-care. You and your team need to focus on this. I've talked about it in previous episodes, and I cannot overemphasize how important it is. The level of stress you are under is not helpful in any way to accomplishing your goals or helping students. Stress is a physiological response. It impacts how you think, feel, and behave, and it negatively impacts your decision-making abilities, your relationships, and your intelligence. Your talents are more likely to show up as weaknesses when you're in this stress response. You know how you look at everything in terms of time, like how long is this going to take, or will you have enough time to get blank done? That is because of stress hormones. Not to mention the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response in and of itself takes a huge amount of your energy. And that's energy you can no longer use to be productive. So the very fact that you are chronically stressed is actually preventing you from doing the things that would theoretically make you less stressed. Crazy, huh? The only thing your brain cares about when it is in this response, the stress response, is survival. Caring calm you can see how a new project will negatively impact your team or students and advocate for them. Stressed out you worries about getting fired, says yes, tells your team there's nothing that could be done. And here's the thing. Could you possibly be fired for challenging these things? Sure. People get fired for anything and nothing all of the time. But when you are stressed, you overestimate how likely this is to happen. I mean, given how many other people have already left, can they really afford to lose you too? Okay. So, this was a very quick overview of how you can deal with this pervasive higher ed issue of too much work, not enough time. And again, I just really, it's not about getting it all done because remember that 80/20 rule? There is a very good chance that even if you did manage to get every single bit of it done, it wouldn't accomplish what you thought it would. So, what does matter is being clear on your goals and focusing on what will make the biggest impact in achieving them. And this needs to happen with respect to the resources you actually have. Now, what you could do if you had all the people and all the money and always felt wonderful. You don't, so you can't. You are not unlimited. Your team is not unlimited. Now, should someone do something about this unhealthy and overwhelming culture? Should someone fix all the systems that clearly don't work? Yeah, obviously that would be fantastic, right? But you and your team cannot afford to wait for that to happen, nor can you afford to trying to keep do it all. It cannot be done, and it's ruining people's health and sense of well being, including yours. What can be done is upgrading your mindset and your abilities so you can challenge this culture. You can prioritize, create effective systems, set healthy boundaries, and focus on better stress management for you and your team. Those are things that you can do that will allow you to be more productive. Again, not necessarily get everything done, but fit what you can in the suitcase that you have. And if you want more information on how you can start to do these things, because again, I realize none of it is easy. It really is about changing your mindset, and that can be challenging, especially when you are stuck in a chronically stressed situation. I would encourage you to join us for the next Supervisor Strengths Institute. If you are watching this shortly after I recorded it, then it would be the summer of 2024. That is the next cohort that will be going through the Supervisor Strengths Institute. And you can click on the show notes below and get the link for more information. But, you're a supervisor and you need way more support than you're getting. And Strengths University would love to help you upgrade how you think and how you show up in this space. So we can change your experience, we can change your team's experience, your students, and ultimately higher ed. So join us if you can and stay strong.